Hey guys, I'm Grestar, and how about we watch RWBY Volume 1, Chapter 2, The Shining Beacon, which I believe is Part 1. Again, this is not going to follow the traditional Let's Watch format that I usually have, but this is just a reaction where you will only get my video. If you would like to follow along with me, I will provide the timestamp as it runs, so you can, watch at the same time, but you're going to have to open the original video in another window or another tab, or have it preemptively downloaded, or something to that effect, because it's just going to be me here. Yeah! But yes, the video that I will be using in particular is in the RWBY playlist on Rooster Teeth's channel on YouTube. I have links for that in the description, or you can click this annotation right here to go to the specific video. Again, Volume 1, Chapter 2, The Shining Beacon, Part 1. Yeah, so wherever you want to find the video, find it, and then yeah. But I say that specifically because I don't know how the timestamps relate from their YouTube channel to the DVDs that were released. So I just want you guys to know that I am using the ones from, the videos on their Rooster Teeth YouTube channel. So last time there was a dust store, if that's the correct term for it, getting robbed by this group of people who I don't really know, but they seem to be, they're the bad sort, and I'm pretty sure they're gonna come back. I'm pretty sure they're gonna be a recurring villain, at least for a little while. But Ruby Rose was there to stop them, and though at first reprimanded for her actions of putting people in danger, even though really you'd only put that one shopkeeper in danger unless you're also counting the thugs, but I wouldn't really. But she caught the attention of the headmaster? Yeah, the headmaster of Beacon. So she was originally at Signal, which was a school teaching, warriors like them how to fight to become hunters or huntresses against the dark beasts of the world or whatever. But now, since she caught the headmaster's attention, she was jumped up 2 years and is now going to Beacon Academy. I don't know if it's called Beacon Academy, but Beacon! With her older sister, Yang. So, that's a thing. And she gets to learn and stuff. I don't really know a ton else, so I can't say a whole lot, but that's the basic recap. She fought, it caused tension, and now she was, promoted. She was skipped 2 years up, so good for her. I didn't really touch on this much in my discussion after the video, but I talked a little bit about it during the video when I watched, Chapter 1. But just to say real quick, I expected Ruby Rose to be much more of a Raven from Teen Titans kind of character. More of this kind of quiet, brooding sort of character, instead of this really perky, she seems really, aside from that bit with Yang at the end, where she didn't want to be an outstanding person, she didn't want people to think that she was weird or different or anything. She seemed very excited about the prospect of being a huntress, about, learning and fighting and everything. Not just excited in the gung-ho, let's go fight kind of way, but girly squeals and excitement and everything. And so, I don't know. But yeah, I just didn't expect that from her character. I'm not disappointed. I was just saying that oh, my expectations were wrong, and she is not like this, but instead like this. And I found that to be interesting. But enough about that. It's time for Volume 1, Chapter 2, The Shining Beacon, Part 1. And with that said, let's get to watching. If you want to best match up the times, click play when I say play. That's how I do it for myself. So, play. Okay, so now we have the intro. And we get to see all the characters and stuff. Yang has a motorcycle, and there are dark beasts. Okay. Not to say, the opening is totally fine. It's not bad by any means, in my opinion, but for the sake of things, I am going to skip. No, I won't, because then that might screw up your time. Look, it's over. It's over. We're fine. We're here. We're cool. Just saying, I was tempted to skip, but then I don't want to mess up, you guys keeping up, because then you would have to skip too, so we'll just, yeah, we'll go with it. I mean, it's not even that long an intro, so it's not that bad. Poor guy. It's a nice hoodie, though. I like your jacket. And look at all those dark people walking with them, because they're unimportant. Whoa, it's a big school, I imagine, in comparison to Signal, because we never actually got to see what that looked like. Interesting mix of animation techniques there. Yeah. No. But her friends are unimportant. Oh, that's not a good thing to do. Never good to faint. Schnee, oh. See, I was just thinking exposition, but you know. I don't know what to say at this point. The characters are all like different than I thought. Oh. Oh, snap. Okay. Wait, are those two in the background important too? Because they're not silhouettes. Okay, bye. You gotta stop just collapsing. This is public, you know. Hello, Jean. I knew that before she did. Joan of Arc. Sniper, boom. Yes. Yeah. Oh, collapsible shield. All right. An extension of himself. Ah. I was gonna say they designed their own? Okay. Oh. Aw. What a pleasant way of thinking. Fair enough. Wait, that was all one episode? That was a very short episode. Alright, I'm gonna wait for these credits, and then we'll talk about the brevity of this episode. Just because I feel that's worth mentioning, you know? Okay, so it's over, let's talk about it. Granted, the opening song and the credits are both very short, but this episode was only, how long was it? 6 minutes and 15 seconds, and so what happened in this episode was, it shows Ruby and Yang step off the ship, we saw them end off in the last chapter, you know, chapter 1, And then they walk forward and Yang's all like, oh, I have friends, goodbye. And then RWBY faints, well, not faints, but she collapses and then lands on stuff. And then Weiss is all like, I'm rich and pompous and that's my dust. And then RWBY's like, sorry. And Weiss is all, I'm rich and pompous and I don't care that you're apologizing. And then Blake, that's her name, is all like, yeah, she's the heir to this fortune thing. And Weiss is all, thank you. And she's all, oh, but they've also scandal and blah, blah, blah. And then they leave and then RWBY faints again, collapses again. And then Jean comes up and that's it. They were just all this episode was very brief introduction. There was no actual real substance to it, in my opinion. Like, we didn't go anywhere near, like, the setting didn't really change. They just, like, the farthest we got was RWBY and Jean walked a little bit, to me, what looked like I don't know, but it was just a little bit of a trail. And then we got to see a bit of Weiss, a bit of Blake, and then a bit of Jean, and I guess a little bit more of RWBY. But, like, at least chapter 1, you know, we got to see a little bit more about, like, we got some exposition, but it wasn't all thrown in our faces, I suppose. And I don't know, basically what I'm saying is that I find this chapter lacking. I understand having a short episode and being, you know, on a low budget and everything, because I'm pretty sure that RWBY, you know, it started off on a really low budget with, you know, minimal people working on it and everything. And for that, you know, this is an impressive show, but I feel that you should take more time and actually have chapter 2 mean something. Like, I'm pretty sure, you know, there's The Shining Beacon, chapter 2, part 1, and then chapter 3 is The Shining Beacon, part 2. I haven't seen part 2 yet, obviously enough, but I think that they really should have just combined chapters 2 and 3 into one chapter, had it just be The Shining Beacon, and then move on, because this by itself was not really an episode. It was just an introduction to a few characters, and then Weiss, you know, threw some exposition in our faces about dust and how it's energy, and lightning, and fire, and water, just magic kind of stuff, you know? Aside from that, I feel like this chapter was really lacking, and that's not to say anything bad about the show, and I want to say that because I know people are already bristling defensively, and that's not the point I'm trying to make. I'm just saying that really they should have just taken a little bit more time and combined these two episodes to actually make an episode that had more of an impact, because this was not fitting to be a chapter all its own. That's my opinion. Let's see if I have anything else to say now that that's out of the way. One thing I didn't mention with chapter 1, but I'll bring up now, and part of this was already prefaced by the fact that I know they had a small budget, and I know they didn't have a ton of people working on it, but the voice acting in this has been a little bit interesting so far, and that it hasn't been the best, but it definitely hasn't been the worst. So I'm not gonna like wholly criticize it, but I do look forward to seeing how they improve the voice acting, or, you know, like lip syncing too, if they do that. Another really interesting part of this episode, however brief it was when they introduced another animation style into it, and I don't know, it was, I say interesting in this case, like I don't always mean interesting in this case, but I say in this case because I'm not sure exactly how I feel about it. Like, I know that it stood out, it was interesting, but I'm not sure whether I liked it or not. I'm inclined to think I didn't entirely. Like, I enjoyed the concept of it well enough, but I feel like the execution was a little poor, or it could have been better, because I think it specifically relies, or is because of the fact that RWBY, being an anime, is such a different looking anime. You know, like, you have anime that might have different styles, like Berserk and Code Geass, where the characters just look different, but in RWBY, the entire art style is different, I think because of the software that they use to actually create the animations using 3D models and everything. And, you know, that's not a bad thing by any means, and it's not a fault of theirs. But the issue with that is that when you have those kinds of models, that kind of animation, and then you include the flat 2D animation, like when RWBY was geeking out over all the weapons and clinging onto Yang's arm and everything, it just looks out of place. It's like when you have a live-action film and then you know, have, I don't want to say CGI in case that's an incorrect use of the term, but I'll use it just because I figure you guys will know what I mean when I say that. When you have, like, okay, look at the Scooby-Doo movies, you know, where you have the characters, real life action stuff, and then you have Scooby-Doo, who is clearly not a real thing that's really there, you know, things like that. Or Rocky and Bullwinkle, the movie, where, like, they're not really there. Except that one actually kind of worked. But you know what I mean, where it's like, you can tell that they don't actually belong there, and so it was, you know, the contrast in styles between geeking out RWBY, like Ruby Rose, and then the rest of the show RWBY. It was just, yeah. So, I don't know how I would exactly recommend changing that, because I imagine it would be very difficult to have that kind of stylistic chibi effect in the same, like, 3D animated program that they use. I just think, so I think a lot of it is just the fact that RWBY is you know, largely, for the most part, created in that sort of 3D manner, that it makes it more difficult to have more of those chibi-esque moments than if it were all that kind of more traditional look. So, I don't know. Not a lot that I can say on that, aside from what I've already said, which I guess is kind of a lot. But I mean, like, nothing too constructive. I can just say, like, this looked odd to me, and I think it's because of this, but ultimately, I don't know how I would better it or change it necessarily. So, you know, take that for what you will. And yeah, now I am going to be uploading my reaction to part 2, which is chapter 3, you know, the Shining Beacon part 2, today as well. So if you'd like to see that, click this annotation right here, or of course you can go check out my Let's React to RWBY playlist, where I will hopefully have them all in the correct order, and yeah, it'll be great. Let me know what you guys thought about this episode in the comments, whether you agree with some of the things that I brought up, what you might, you know, suggest they change. Like, if you had the power, what would you change about that? I'm not really talking about the content of RWBY as a whole, and definitely do not leave spoilers for me, please and thank you. But I just mean, like, with the issues that I brought up, how you might change that from a technical kind of standpoint, you know what I mean? But yeah, let me know your opinions on various things, and with that, we're calling it here. Cue outro, go!